Hi students, welcome to math. So we are going to learn how to calculate the area of rectangles, squares, and parallelograms. These are the workbook pages that you'll need, so make sure you have your materials with you. And before we go over the formulas, let's go over what area even is. So as you may probably know, area is the space within a region. So if you look at this table, area is calculating the number of square units needed to cover the entire surface of the table. You can also see this represented in this little pictogram here. These square units, as you can see inside, that's what we're trying to calculate with area. That being said, you can see why it's important to learn how to calculate area in real life. For example, if you're trying to figure out how large your carpet has to be, if you want to buy one for your living room. Also, you can see here the difference between area and perimeter, where perimeter measures the distance around a garden, for example. An area will tell you how much, for example, surface area you need, how many square units you need to cover the surface area. And of course, if you're painting a wall in your room, you also need to know the area to see how many square units you need to cover that entire wall surface. Okay, moving on to our formulas. They're pretty straightforward. To find the area of a square, you just have to multiply the length of the square by the width, so 6 times 6, or because it's a square, you can just square the one of the sides. So this will just be 6 squared, or 6 to the second power, and that's 6 times 6 equals 36 units squared. So notice how when we are calculating area, every time we write units, we have to put squared. Okay, because we're calculating how many square units are inside the surface area. Cool. Area of a rectangle, same concept. You're just multiplying the length and the width. So 8 times 5 equals 40 units squared. For a parallelogram, it's a little bit different because you're going to be multiplying base times height. But again, it's a similar concept. So the base would be here, 6 units. Okay? And the height is the line segment that's perpendicular to both the bases. So you can see here, it's not this line, it's this blue line. That is the height. As you can see indicated by the right angle symbol. So in this case, we just do 6 times 3, which is 18 units squared. Now moving on to a more complex figure. How do you think you will calculate an area for this figure? Exactly. You're going to be calculating the area of each shape individually and then adding them together. That's why the formula here is length times width, that's one area, plus base times height, the area of this parallelogram. So first you find the area of this rectangle by multiplying these two numbers. And then you find the area of this parallelogram by multiplying the base and height. And then you add them together to get the answer. We'll be practicing this in our textbook, of course. Switching gears a little bit, calculating the measurement of an unknown side given the area. So some problems might give you the area and ask you to find the unknown side. What mathematical operation do you think we'll use in this case? What is the inverse operation of multiply? Divide, very good. So to find the unknown side, you're just going to divide the area by the side that's given. So in this case, 42 inches squared divided by 7 gives us 6 inches. And of course, in this case, we don't do the squared because it's just the side. All right. As a summary, if you want to write these formulas down in your notebook so you don't have to keep going back, go ahead and do that. And otherwise, let's get started. Page 242. If you want to take some time to read over this, of course, I recommend that you can do that too. Use the formula length times width to find the area of the figure. Okay, so number 1, let's count the square units for the length. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, so 9 is the length. Times width. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 9 times 7 gives us 63. And if it doesn't give you the units, you're going to just write units. And of course, units squared. Don't forget that. All right, number 3 actually gives us the measurements. Okay, the length is 5.6 meters times width, which is 2 meters. Let's go ahead and multiply. 6 times 2 gives us 12. Bring the 1 to the top. 5 times 2 is 10, plus 1 is 11. So we got 11.2. And this is supposed to be a 2 squared. Find the area of the figure. Okay, we have a different shape. We have a parallelogram. Very good. And what's the formula for a parallelogram? Base times height. I'm just writing down the formulas here, guys, so to remind us, but you don't have to keep writing down the formulas every time you solve the questions, okay? So base here is 2.3, and the height is 2.7. Go ahead and multiply that. 7 times 3, very good. 2 times 7, 14, plus 2. Okay, 0 here, times 3, 6, 2 times 2, 4. And I really appreciate you guys sticking with me with this horrible handwriting that you need to deal with. Oops, that's 6. The decimal goes here because we got 1, 2. Fantastic. 7. We got a little more complex figure here. Zoom in a little bit. Or not. We got 2 rectangles. Area of a rectangle is L times W. So we're going to do L times W plus L times W. Okay? That means, what is the length of this one? 12. And the width of this one? 10. Plus length of this guy? 20. And here's a little trick question. What about the width for this one? It's not 28 because this entire thing is 28. So we should do 28 minus 10. Do you see why? Because we're going to kind of trim off this section, which is 10 yards. This is 10. And this whole thing is 28. So to find just this section, we're going to do 28 minus 10. Does that make sense? So that means the width is, what's 28 minus 10? 18. Very good. Cool. Let's do that. So 12 times 10 is 120. And then 20 times 18. 18 times 2 is 36. We're going to add that 0 at the end because of here. Then 120 plus 360 is 480 yards. Oops. And squared. So that was a little more complicated, but we got through it. Great. Find the area of the figure, number 13. Okay, we got a rectangle. Tell me what's the formula here. Yep. Length times W. Length is 15 centimeters and width. Oh, sorry, other way. Well, it doesn't really matter, right? And then we do the multiplication, which gives us 525 centimeters squared. Number 15, we got a square. So this time our formula can be A equals S squared, right? So our side is 1.9. So we're going to square this, meaning what's the multiplication problem? 1.9 times 1.9. Very good. And that gives us 3.61 yards squared. Same with number 17, we also got a square. So our formula is A equals S squared. The side is 3.5 or 3.5 squared. So let's do 3.5 times 3. What's the first step here? Yeah, turn it into improper fractions. So 3 times 2, 6, plus 1, 7. 7 over 2 times 7 over 2. 7 times 7 is 49. 2 times 2 is 4. Gotta change this back into a mixed number. Yep, so we're gonna divide. There we go. 4 goes into 49 how many times? Very good. It's a 4. Remainder 1. So that gives us 12 and 1/4, right? Hang on, let me erase this. 1/4 inches squared. Great. 19. We got some complex figures, so let's divide them into shapes. If I divide them into 2 rectangles, this one we're going to be doing 6 times 5. What about here? We're going to be doing 11 times 5. Very good. Because we're going to do the same thing as before. We're going to do 10 minus 5 to get this. Okay? That being said, let's write down the formulas here. A equals length times width plus length times width. Let's look at the first rectangle. What is the length of this tiny one? 6 centimeters. And the width of this tiny one? 5. Okay, and the length of this tall one? 11. And the width of this tall one is 5. 6 times 5, 11 times 5, 30 plus 55, 85 centimeters. And our units squared. Fantastic. Guys are doing great. Oh, I made a mistake. I'm sure that you have caught this already. This is supposed to be number 7, and we didn't do 9 and 11. Oops, sorry guys, let's move that over. I still need some more coffee this morning. Okay, find the unknown measurement of the figure using the given area, number 9. Okay, so this time we're going to be using this formula, right? N equals A divided by S, so let's just go straight to it. And this is a divide sign, okay? Alright, so our area here is 25 feet squared divided by one of the sides, which is 5 feet. Easy, 25 divided by 5, 5 feet. Very good. 11, oops, sorry. Aha, N equals area divided by side. The area is 70 meters squared, and one of the sides is 5.6. Yay, we get to divide decimals. Remember, if our divisor is a decimal, we're going to turn into a whole number by moving the decimals to the end. And we do the same thing with the dividend. So this becomes 56, and the dividend becomes 700. So 700 divided by 56. 56 goes into 70 one time. Borrow here. 10 minus 6 is 4. 6 minus 5 is 1. Bring down the 0. How many times is 56 going to 104? 2 times. 2 times 56 is 112. Subtract. Borrow. Okay. Now we gotta annex zeros. You thought we were done with that unit, but it's coming back to haunt us again. Alright, 56 goes into 280 5 times. 56 times 5 is exactly 280, so we're left with 0 remainders. And where should we put the decimal? Yeah, it's kind of hard to tell, but yeah, you're supposed to put a decimal here. Yep, tens place, tens place. So our area, after much calculation, is, not area, sorry. The side is 12.5 meters. Fantastic. I'm going to make a part 2 so we can go on to our next section, which starts at number 21. Talk to you soon.